And I want to say welcome to everyone. It is such a great pleasure to be able to host our 2023 YVSC City Council Candidate Sustainability Forum. To all community members and partners, thank you so much for joining. And to our prospective council candidates, I want to thank you for joining. We do have full attendance. Council member Bacino had said he was going to be able to join, but he may not be able to. But if we see him, we'll let him in as well. So I just want to say a warm welcome to everyone. I'm Michelle Stewart, Executive Director of Yampa Valley Sustainability Council, and it's my great privilege to be able to moderate this important and timely forum today, with several of our esteemed colleagues and environmental thought partners also at the table and alongside. The goal of this forum is to facilitate a targeted and content-rich discussion with our valued City Council candidates to help voters understand how current and prospective candidates plan to lead our city during the next term, clarifying in particular how key issues like energy, waste diversion, resource conservation, tourism, wildfire readiness, and much more fit into their platforms and their plans for service. This is a very important time to be stepping into service. So again, thank you to our council candidates for stepping forward, and how our elected officials make decisions and based on what inputs is course setting for our community. The complex challenges and opportunities facing our community today are connected in important ways, and today's discussion is an important start to dialogue between decision makers and constituents on the salient environmental issues in our community. So before I give a quick overview of the logistics of the meeting, I would like to welcome our council candidates to the floor, and I'll ask each of you to do a brief 30-second self-introduction so everyone can match your name with your face if this is the first forum that they're attending. And then, so 30 seconds. So please say your name, and then what is most inspiring to you as you step forward as a council candidate at this time. So not seeing Councilmember Bacino, I will move to District 2, Brian Svintek.
Hi, I'm Brian Swintek. I'm running for City Council in District 1. I am running unopposed, but very much don't take it for granted. I moved to Steamboat just over a year ago, and I'm new. I don't have all the answers, but being here a short time, I've realized a lot of the common problems of housing, transportation, balancing that with the environment, which is really difficult. But I wanted to be part of the solution rather than the problem. So looking forward to this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brian. We will move to our District 3 candidates. We have Amy Dixon first and then Jeff Leiter second. Amy.
Great. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I am Amy Dixon. I have been a Steamboat Springs resident for 28 years. I've spent my career in nonprofit healthcare. I'm currently with the Colorado State Medicaid Department, and I would love to represent the community. For me, being on City Council is giving a voice to our community. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. And next, Jeff.
Yeah, my name's Jeff Leiter, and I have been coming to Steamboat for the past 32 years, on average 6 to 7 times a year. And for the last 4 years, have become a permanent resident, being there at least 6 to 8 months at a time. I currently am the CEO of 2 biotech companies. I'm going to step down from one of those. So I want to use my talents in solving problems and making decisive actions to kind of dig into the problems being faced with Steamboat and growth.
Great. Thank you so much. And next we'll move to our at-large candidates, and the order is alphabetical. So we have John Augusta first, Robert, Daryl, and then Steve. So John.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So briefly, my campaign for City Council accidentally began with my concern for Yampa Valley watershed, wetlands, and floodplain preservations due to the city planned Stone Lane Bridge and Indian Meadows hotel development, because they impeded upon some wetlands. As I worked through those issues, I started attending City Council meetings and got more involved into the other key issues, and felt that I had, and I have a strong belief that I could sort of help the city move in the right direction. based upon that. My background is I have successfully negotiated and managed large, complex, multi-million-dollar deals, tens of millions of dollar deals with high-tech firms like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, HP, Intel, building collaborative partnerships with them and then executing upon those. So my background is really about building partnerships, collaborative solutions, and driving plans through data. So I'm really a data guy, and I want to make sure that everything we do is supported by data. Thank you.
Great, thank
And I have a website for more information about me.
Great. Thank you,
JohnAugusta.com.
John. And next we have Robert.
Yeah, how y'all doing? My name's Robert Galrath. I've been visiting Steamboat for 45 years. My brother, I have family that's lived here for 35 years, so I've heard all about the problems. But it's more about the solutions. I'm not an expert. I don't have all the answers, but I see that we have these resources that I got in the email, the 2020 Water Conservation Plan, 2021 Route County Climate Action Plan. And you could use these tools along with the brains of everybody involved to come up with solutions. If no one else will, I want to step forward and try to help out.
Great. Thank you so much, Robert. Next, Daryl.
My name's Daryl Dog Levin, and I've lived in the Yampa Valley for 48 years. My goal to try to help City Council is my 48 years of experience of owning 2 businesses and running an operation for the ski area in the 80s, running their operation at base, all their base area, all their security, and all their snow removal. So I've had big budgets throughout my years and always came in under budget. We got a lot of problems in this town, and some of them I think we can handle, and others I think are a little out of control. So my experience, I'm running to give my experience out there to people of what I've seen, what we've done as a community, and where we're heading. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Daryl. And Steve?
Thank you. My name is Steve Muntean, and my wife and I first came to Steamboat about 30 years ago, and we fell in love with the authentic Western town that Steamboat is. And I just want to maintain and preserve and hopefully enrich that community, that culture, that character, that lifestyle we have here. And we do have a number of challenges that we face. And I believe that if we use a common sense, solution-focused approach, balanced approach to address these challenges, we're up to the task of solving those challenges, and I want to be part of that.
Great. Thank you, Steve. And we do have Councillor Buccino on. So Michael, if you'd like to do a 30-second self-introduction.
Thanks, everybody. Glad to be here. I was running a little bit late, had some other meetings with the Building Oversight Committee, ending a little bit right there on time to get over and join you guys. Glad to be here, glad to be part of the candidate forum. And yes, I have been here. Some of you know me, others don't. I've lived here since 1996. I met my wife here. I have 3 kids, Mikey, Anya, and Grayson. And Mikey is the police officer. So if you get a ticket, you probably did something wrong. Mikey's good there. I'm trying to help him get housing. We're dealing with housing, obviously. And there's so much in depth that we've been working on in council. And so I'm just glad to continue on the next 4 years. Would love to ask and have more time to spend with each one of you guys if we can. So hopefully we get a touch a little bit of who we are during this forum right now.
Great. Thank you so much, Councillor Buccino. Okay, so I will get us going into the forum. Again, I want to thank all of our councillor candidates. Again, it's an important time to serve, so thank you for stepping forward and being part of this conversation. Again, thank you to our partners and community members who are part of this conversation as well. Something that is really remarkable about this community is we really care about it and one another, and so this is a good marker of this. So today we do have 7 questions that we will pose during the forum. Depending on how quickly candidates get through those, we may have additional ones that we will ask. What's unique about these questions is they have been actually put forward to the forum by environmental partners, agencies, and thought partners in the community. And so they are not just YVSC generated questions, they're coming to you from an array of nonprofits and agencies. We were not able to ask all of the questions, and so we will send you out all of the questions that were asked, because as we know, crafting a good question is difficult, and you learn a lot by reading those questions as well. So 7 questions. The first one will be to all candidates. Each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to the questions. We do have the timer, which you'll see there, and then candidates, you will get a 30-second tone. So please do wrap up, and we're aiming for equal floor time for all candidates. And then each of our partners will ask questions. Partners that are asking questions, you will just follow suit. So when you see the candidates before you wrapping up their questions, please lead us into the next one. For those that are not speaking, please do remember to mute. Community members and partners, feel free to also pose additional questions to the chat that you would like to ask the candidates. They will not be able to respond to it live during the forum today, but we will share that with them. And then, of course, they can use that for fodder to really clarify their platforms moving forward. We do also have the Steamboat pilot joining today. It's always a really nice story. So please know that in addition to the value your answers have here, they will continue to move forward into the community. So with that, it is my great pleasure to launch us into our 2023 Sustainability Forum, and we look forward to the conversation. I will lead us into the first question. Again, it is for all candidates. I can remind you of the order, but I just want to let you know the order now. First, we will begin with our at-large candidates, Steve Muntean, Daryl Levin, Robert Galoreth, John Augusta, and then we'll have District 3, Jeff Leiter and Amy Dixon, District 2, Brian Svintek, and District 1, Michael Bacino. So this will go to all candidates. If you forget your order, I'll help you remember it. Leading us off, the Routt County Climate Action Plan was adopted by Routt County, City of Steamboat Springs, towns of Hayden, Oak Creek, and Yampa in 2021, and provides the city and these other governmental partners with a set of strategies to reduce emissions across waste, energy, transportation, land use, and economy sectors. Also in 2021, an intergovernmental agreement, the Routt County Climate Action Plan Collaborative, was signed to facilitate regional collaboration and implementation of the Climate Action Plan. What do you see is the key role of City Council in implementing the Climate Action Plan? More and more, it is recognized that CAP implementation means integrating the CAP into early stages and all stages of decision-making. What do you see as effective tactics for better integrating the CAP into decision-making and having the resources to do so? So first, please lead us off, Steve Muntean.
Thank you. I think one of the main roles of the city in all of this is to align the building code with the Climate Action Plan, and then be the leader in the community in implementing that plan. I think we need to make sure that there's clarity around the renewable energy technologies, the cost of those technologies, the payoffs, the tax credits, the safety involved. Then it can become part of the analysis of anything new or existing in terms of building or outdoor energy uses. You know, one of the examples I will use of this is, and I don't know if Tim is on from Yampa Valley Community Foundation, but that building on 4th and Oak Street, when they built that and they decided to use geothermal on that, and they put in those 8-foot holes, and the temperature is about 70 degrees, 72 degrees down there. And with the tax credits that you get, the 30% from the Inflation Reduction Act, plus the 10% for a nonprofit, the payoff on that facility is going to be like 5 years. So after 5 years, basically, you're not going to have any energy costs at all. That's a type of example I think the city needs to use in educating and showing to not only the people who live here, but builders and designers, architects, and everyone else, so that we can all be aligned to the fact that there are cost-effective technologies out there right now that meet up with the Climate Action Plan that we should start to address. And so I would be a partner with as many different organizations, builders, everyone that we can get involved with to educate and promote how we can align ourselves more with the Climate Action Plan moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Daryl.
I'm all for the Climate Action Plan and working with other communities. But we still have a lot of issues facing us in that. It's emissions across waste, energy, transportation. It's going to be a hard sell to everybody, the cost of it, and working with what we have right now with budget issues. It's going to be difficult to get all the things that are listed on the CAP. Um, I would like to see certain things. You know, I mean, the city's building a new building. I don't think they're interested in using anything but electric or and gas, natural gas. And you know, if you're gonna do a CAP, then you got to get on board and push towards that and get the resources and the funding and the grants that you can. But emissions alone is a big issue in this valley, and you know, it might try to work a deal with the Union Pacific to get the train coming through here, which would really help the carbon footprint as far as emissions, which is a big one because I grew up in Southern California in the 50s and early 60s, which was what we called the brown cloud smog, which they see in Denver today during winter when you have the inversions. So I would just work hard with other facilities and people around the community to try to get things pushing in that direction. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Daryl. And Robert.
Hello, everybody. I'll try to be brief because we have a lot to go over, but we all need to be aware of the climate action plan as city council members, know it backwards and forwards. And more importantly, we need to communicate and educate the community about the community action plan and try to work in what's included in that plan and all the decisions we make, whether it be transportation, waste use, energy, economy, accountability, any of those, you got to bear in mind how it affects the climate. Just 15 seconds is enough for me.
Great. Thank you, Robert. Next, John.
So first of all, the key role of the city council in this, so the city council's role in this area is ensuring that our planning, our variance review, our decision-making processes for any city-funded or supported projects are always aligned with the CAP. In terms of effective tactics, we need, you know, next step is really to operationalize the CAP. So I see that the CAP Collaborative has done a great job in creating a work action breakdown to begin the process of operationalizing the CAP. And there are things like the housing codes related, changes to the CAP. We need to review those current city building codes and develop codes that, and move them in alignment with the CAP as soon as possible. However, we do have that challenge that the codes are updated every 3 years, and we're just completing that 3-year process. They're trying to close that out like it's ASAP, definitely being implemented before January 1. But we still can start that process of creating working groups to analyze the codes with respect to the CAP recommendations, to understand how the codes may be modified, and also to bring to light the areas that need to, find alternative solutions. So I would promote that we actually do, in addition to create a CAP checklist that we submit with all commercial and residential requests, and that would help us understand where we are finding our gaps today. I would look to partners like the Sustainability Council to help guide us. The city council and the city staff are juggling hundreds of things, and we need partnerships because to help guide us. And so a lot of this is going to be about partnerships with folks like you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Jeff, and we're now moving to District 3.
Great, thank you for, gotta unmute myself. Thank you for the opportunity. So the way I kind of look at these things, first and foremost, the role of city council, in my opinion, would be leadership as well as building momentum. And I think you had mentioned, getting early into the process. So in the biotech world, everything is about quality by design, making sure that you put quality into your products up front. So for me, if I were elected city council, I would have to come up to speed on what the entire CAP program looks like. And the way that I tend to try and build momentum facing a variety of different problems and challenges, first and foremost, what are the 1 or 2 easy wins so that you can get success and build momentum? But then what's the big, hard, gnarly problem that really, if you dug into, would have the most impact? So I would look for a couple of early wins once I really understood what the CAP program was about and where there were shortfalls and gaps between that. And then I would look to tackle the hardest problem with the various city council members in order to effectively get a solution there and then hopefully start generating momentum. I'll
Great,
stop
thank
there.
you. Next, we have Amy Dixon.
Great, thank you so much. So I want to start by saying I fully support the Routt County Climate Action Plan. And climate action is actually one of my 4 priority areas if I was to be elected on the city council. I view the climate action plan on several different levels for city council. The first one on a strategic level. The climate action plan should be incorporated in city council strategic planning sessions and running the climate action plan's lens through decisions that are being made when we're looking long-term for the city. When I think about developing the strategic plan, we should be actively including priority areas from the climate action plan. For example, transportation. We should be including that in our strategic planning, how we are going to increase public transit, whether that's public-private partnerships, looking at transportation from Steamboat West, and really looking at how are we getting single occupancy vehicles off the road when appropriate, and really getting a robust transit system for our residents and our visitors. Really important. And then when we talk about that, obviously people ask about fiscal responsibility. My response is our fiscal decisions represent our community values. And we've heard loud and clear from our community that they support the climate action plan. And so we have to make that investment for our community and for our future.
Thank you very much. Now moving to District 2, Brian Svintek.
Hi. Hey. So I think one of the big things here is the early stage. So early advocacy, early education, early feedback, hearing from the community what is important and what is not. The climate action plan is impressive in its breadth, but there are a lot of things in there to tackle, and you can't tackle everything at once. So what is the most important thing? And what Amy had said as well, I think it needs to be a lens in how we view things and how we make decisions. Just as the budget and resources a lens, I think that the climate action plan and the implications and how can we incorporate this in these decisions should be one of the lenses. And it's a balancing act. And speaking to that, I think it's also about managing resources and balancing the strategic spend when it makes sense. An example would be adopting the building code in Routt County to not be implementing more snowmelt until there's a more sustainable solution, versus something that might be difficult. And this is something I don't necessarily have the answers to right now, but I'd be curious if you were to implement a rule that every new building has to have a plug for an EV. That's wonderful, but we have a housing problem. If that is going to increase the costs and it makes housing more unaffordable, that may not be a strategic decision. Or is that something that's really important to Steamboat? So that is one of the things that is, I think, the role of city council, is to get out, advocate early, get educated, get feedback, and prioritize what are the most important things. From my perspective and who I've spoken to so far, I think the big things are transportation, building that out so we can minimize the number of cars on the road for commuters, as well as, I believe, land use and long-term planning. I think those are the 2 strategic areas.
Great, thank you, Brian. And Councilor Bacino.
Yeah, thank you. And just to clarify, I'm actually the candidate for District 2 and Brian's District 1. So
That's embarrassing.
No, it's all good.
I didn't catch it either.
I apologize. It's a typo.
We're
I
both
own that.
unopposed.
Sorry for that.
But
Thank you for
Brian,
clarifying.
that was really good. I really appreciate what you said. That is exactly the kind of lens that I look through. Is it's more than just the sustainability lens, but I got to tell you, because there's the budget and there's other issues that we need to look at as a community, and we have. And I think the one thing that I would say in the past 4 years since I've been on council, when we adopted the climate action plan, is that it has brought the kind of the greenhouse gases and zero emissions and go into this renewable energy to the forefront of all of our decisions. it has been, it wasn't part of my purview, I would say 4 years ago, but when we adopted the climate action plan, and it does seem like it's a filter that we get to go through in all our city council decisions, but it is a balancing act, especially with trying to make a decision that mandates certain things right now. And so as a discussion like last night, trying to make sure that we have things in place with the renewable energies, that we're not just stuck with paying for renewable energies, but that we're seeing that these Yampa Valley Housing or Yampa Valley Electric and Guzman and others are bringing that renewable energy up to where it needs to be before we actually mandate it. So I'm kind of a balance between not necessarily mandating, but see where we can go with the environmental issues. One thing that's really nice is that we did, we have the city fire station was definitely put in under electric. And so there's times where we can make those decisions as a council, and that works well. And so we'll see that working on moving into the future with this new council.
Great, thanks. Okay, so we're gonna roll right into the second question here. So my name is Emily Burke. I am the Conservation Program Manager at Friends of the Yampa. And this question is to just our at-large candidates. So we'll go in the following order. First will be John, then Robert, then Daryl, and Steve. So the question is, how cities like Steamboat Springs manage balance the tension between protecting and enhancing the health of the Yampa River corridor and the desire for continued economic growth and development matters. What do you identify as valuable approaches for managing stormwater and floodplain development to ensure the ecological health and functioning of the Yampa River and adjacent riparian areas as the city grows? So John, you're first.
Can you, because I'm so sleep deprived, being up until 1:45, can you tell me what question that was? Because I just have notes and I don't have the stuff memorized.
Yeah, it should be question 2, I think, right, Michelle?
4.
Yes, is it question 4? It's the City of Steamboat Springs balancing tension.
Balance tension, okay. Okay, yes, okay, I found it. So my campaign for city council, as I said before, accidentally began for my concern of the Yampa Valley watershed, wetlands, and floodplains due to the city planned creation of the Stone Lane Bridge and the Indian Meadows impeding upon the wetlands. My career has been in high tech and not environmental science, so I am still at the bottom of the learning curve in all this, I'll admit. The learning curve is steep, but these are critical issues for the community and the globe. As I dug into the details of the city's wetlands, I was actually dismayed to see how little of our wetlands was left compared to the studies in the wetland studies in '83. Nonetheless, we need to, force developers to preserve those few remaining tracts and replacing local wetlands, far from the city limits at Finger Rock that we are doing right now, is not an acceptable alternative. We need our building codes and zoning codes to require the utmost protection of our riparian zones. Keeping the Yampa clean is a huge concern for our citizens. And this summer we saw a large education campaign that was kicked off. That was great. We need to ramp that up, that education system. I think last year we had 2 volunteer mornings a week. We need to, we'd like to see that increased. I think that was a great value for the community. Other items, I can keep on going here. One thing I do notice is that, Parks and Rec, I think we seriously need to revisit what Parks and Rec's plans are in terms of turf maintenance, as they currently have these large turfs with chemical weed killers right next to our watersheds. And to me, that just does not make any sense. And so I would like to see that change, at least, finding ways to actually minimize that turf, have natural grasslands between turfs to sort of reduce that size of what we're maintaining, what we're putting water on, and what we're putting chemicals on, would be one area. I don't know how much time I have left. I don't see a timer. Because
I know,
I can keep
apparently the
up
YVSC office
because I
lost
can
power.
because I can keep going.
I'm gonna shift over to being timer. YVSC office lost power. I'm out of town, so I'm gonna be timekeeper now. I'd say you have 5 seconds, and that's it.
Okay. Well, 5 seconds. I'd say
Yeah.
basically we need to protect our wetlands along and they've greatly diminished, and so we need to preserve what we have left there today. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, John. Okay, next is Robert.
First things first, my name's spelled ATH, not ETH. So that's just a little housekeeping thing. But to get to this question number 4, I mean, not only the mountain is a huge resource for the community, but the river is too, and keeping the river clean. Maybe, and I'm not an expert, I don't have all the answers, but maybe a solution is a reservoir where we could capture and, you know, maintain a great deal of this water rather than just letting it flow downstream. And number 2, which may be tied into a different question here, is, you know, have households, you know, have rain barrels so they could collect and harvest the rain that falls on their roof, and they could use it for irrigation and whatever else may be needed. So a reservoir and rain barrels may be a bit of a solution, but I don't have all the answers. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Next is Daryl.
Oh boy, balancing that tension. The Yampa River, man, is a life support for a lot of river life, as we all know. Through the years, we've built on a lot of wetlands in this town in the 48 years that I've been here. All of the development over on Walton Creek Road, man, that was all floodplain. So that was all wetlands. And as you can see, we dodged a big bullet this year with all the snow we had. And we had such a fantastic slow melt of the spring. We dodged a big bullet. It could have been like 1983, 70-degree temperatures, and everything comes down at once and just floods everything. I don't know the answers, but there's certain solutions that we could do. You know, my education, fire science, I'm very critical of our water source that we have. It's not if it's when we have a fire, that whole our water source could be 100% compromised, and we have no other source. And I've studied what's happened with Denver over the last 20 years from the fires they've had, and the money and the millions of dollars you have to spend to clean the sediment out of their reservoirs that produce their water for their drinking water. I don't have all the answers, but I would say that we need to really, really dig into this deeply because it's a serious issue. And, you know, we're in a drought-stricken time. Some people don't believe that, but, you know, the Yampa River suffers
5
dearly
seconds, Daryl.
when we don't have the water that we need, you know, and that's why we have the reservoir out there. It keeps things running and keeps things alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
Great. Okay, last but not least, we have Steve.
I'm sorry,
muted.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce that protecting the wetlands is critical. We can't continue to lose that, that's for sure. And getting more open space is critical as well. One of the things I think that's important here is that the Yampa River, we control a very small portion of the Yampa River. And so, and with the increased demand on the Front Range and everything else, we really have to partner with others around maintaining the health of the Yampa River. And I think you guys have done an excellent job at that. I mean, I look at some of the things that are going on with the Yampa River Fund, the fact that you partnered with the Forest Restoration Project, the Freshwater Trust, and the water quality that has added. And my focus is, again, like many others have said, we don't have all the answers here on this. But my focus is always on bringing groups of people together, experts, and sitting down into a room and collaborating and working together on coming up with solutions that work. You know, even Craig right now is doing some really interesting things in their portion of the Yampa. as well. So I think one of the things that we really need to continue doing is these partnerships, which you have been a leader in. Yampa Valley Sustainability Council has been a leader in, and I would be committed to continuing that and even accelerating that as we continue to protect this river that we have.
Thanks, Steve. And thanks, everybody. My name is Josh Hankus. I'm the Executive Director for the Routt County Wildfire Mitigation Council. And my question is going to be to Districts 1, 2, and 3 candidates. In the following order, we'll just go in numerical order. So District 1 with Brian, District 2 with Michael, and District 3 will follow with Amy and then Jeff. Through the development of Routt County's Community Wildfire Protection Plan, areas within the city of Steamboat Springs have been highlighted as high risk for wildfire. What role can the city play in addressing this threat to our city residents? Brian?
Funny, this is a question. It might not be satisfying. I don't have an answer immediately, but I recently reached out to Chief Sarasoli to meet with him to talk about what is the exact plan for Steamboat, because I don't think it's an if, I think it's a when, and we need to have a plan for what's going to happen. The other thing I would like to explore as well in City Council is why Steamboat Springs proper is not part of the Steamboat Springs Area Fire Protection District. Fire is a huge part of our budget. I think that if we were able to take a collective approach across all these different groups rather than Steamboat be just a little Swiss cheese hole out of the whole thing, I'd like to really dig into that to understand why. And I'm sure that there are ways that we can leverage that to better protect the wildfire risks that we're surrounded by in Steamboat.
Thanks, Brian. Michael, you're next.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. And I think a couple things are going in place, at least. One of the big concerns is Fish Creek, the reservoir up there, and our water up there. Because if there was a wildfire, we would lose a huge part of our water source for the city of Steamboat Springs. So having a redundancy with the potential of the Brown Ranch and the Elk River water treatment facility is only going to help mitigate kind of long-term problems in case there is a fire. And that's kind of already in place right now. We did have a test last November that we actually shut down the Fish Creek plant for maintenance for an entire month. And we were able to sustain the city of Steamboat Springs during that time with just the infiltration gallery over by the Steamboat Christian Center. And so that was encouraging to see. I think the other thing that I would like to point out is when it comes to the fire is that there are some options that we have with, and I've discovered it being on council. There's some DOLA money and some other intergovernmental state money for kind of getting rid of all the dead trees in a neighborhood. And there's programs right now that a community can put together, but it's actually interesting how it's based on an HOA, not necessarily the city. And so if an HOA like the Sanctuary got together, they could actually tap into some of these funds to be able to start cleaning out all those dead inside the city to help mitigate some of the wildfire risks that we have. And so if you think about it from an HOA standpoint, then that's a part of the community. They won't let you do it as a single owner, but if you do as a HOA, you could do that. So there are some funding mechanisms that are out there that we really haven't even taken advantage of. And those are areas that the city should help lead and guide you guys into.
Thank you, Michael. Up next is Amy.
Great. Thank you so much. Great question. Because I think this is an issue all communities now face. The plan currently has actually outlined some great areas for the city to work on. I think education is a huge part for the city when we talk about addressing this wildfire threat for our residents. Really helping homeowners learn the importance of taking steps to help mitigate any fire spreading on their property and potentially to their homes. That's been done successfully in other communities. I think it's a great model to look at. I do know the plan talks about having an ambassador, because there's only so many people. So having ambassadors in different community areas talk about having how homeowners can help lessen the threat of having the wildfire extend onto their property. I think when we talk about city code, which I know City Council has currently been talking about, looking at our current building codes and looking at replacing roofing material, looking at non-flammable material for our homes, I think is an important step. And I think lastly would be ensuring that we have a very robust and effective emergency system to be able to notify residents if there was a wildfire that was going to impact our community, that people could act and respond appropriately and timely.
Thanks, Amy. And we'll close out this question with Jeff running for District 3.
Yeah, thank you. So this is not a very area of expertise on my own. But I do want to piggyback on something that Brian mentioned first in regards to clearing out the trees and using untapped funds. At least from my perspective, that would be a place to start where I think you could get big benefit. So I would certainly want to kind of pursue and actively look at what are the methods to do that. Then I'll tap into two things that Amy said in regards to first, making sure that there are codes that are updated in a fashion that can make homes more fire retardant, if you will, in the future building. And then most importantly, as we've seen the devastation of a whole host of fires as well as other things, is communication systems to be able to get everybody alerted and be able to effectively vacate people from harm's way. I think those would be the three areas I would focus on based on kind of other people's input, but where I think the priorities could be in a fashion that would get you the biggest bang for the buck.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, my name is Bonnie Hernandez. I'm the Director of Impact with the Craig Scheckman Family Foundation. This question is for all candidates in the order that follows. We'll start with District 1. We'll hear from Brian. Then we'll move on to Michael in District 2. District 3, we'll have Amy first and then Jeff. And then the at-large candidates will go in the order of John, Robert, Daryl, and then Steve. So there's a critical need for local governments to integrate justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, also known as JEDI principles, into their policies, procedures, and actions. How would you work to advance JEDI principles through environmental policies, procedures, and actions in the city? We'll start with Brian.
I think the best way to think about this is to go back to the lenses that I was talking about originally. I think that viewing things from an ease of accessibility, how everybody would be able to enjoy Steamboat in the same way and same level, regardless of where they are, who they are, is kind of how I view this as a key topic to think of. For example, at Brown Ranch, I think that as you balance the things between space and the parks and whether or not we should be fighting for these parks, when you look at it and when you go out there and you look at it, you realize you are out there, you have access to the outdoors, and that you are able to enjoy just as much of Steamboat being out there with or without those parks. You're surrounded by open space, whereas other areas it may not be the same. So I think that keeping this in mind as one of the key things, that maintaining equity and access to the outdoors, enjoying it, preserving it, maintaining it for everybody, both us and future generations, is one of the key things we need to do on City Council.
Thanks, Brian. We'll move to Michael.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, good question. You know, DEI has only been around for a few years since I've really been on City Council when we had to bring it up on a policy issue. And, you know, from the city perspective, we have advanced on my tenure the last 4 years, moving forward with some DEI, not the JEDI, so that's the new one, but the JEDI principles. I'm not really sure how we actually work through advancing those more than we've already been doing. I think bringing that in, and we talk about looking at things through a lens, and things have to be looked through the lens on different things. And here's the JEDI principles that we can go through on what we're trying to make equitable throughout the whole community. And I think we need to use some common sense into that as well, and see where the decisions that we have making that we can incorporate some of those EDI or JEDI principles into some of these decisions. But to me, it's more of a lens. I want to be able to make sure that we can look through it as well as where we are moving forward with some of the decisions, but we at least need to know where other people are coming from, and so we can have some equity and some diversity in that. But it has to be, it's not going to be 100%, right? There's going to be a give and take because we have other factors involved. But the one thing that we're seeing that's happening on council now is that we're actually have a lens of EDI that we can actually start looking through. Where before I was on council, we really didn't have anything like that. So I think we're making progress for sure.
Hey, thank you. Let's move to District 3. Amy, we'd like to hear from you first.
Great, thank you. So really important question. So thank you for this question. I would start by saying all people have the right to be protected from environmental pollution and live and enjoy a clean, healthy environment. So with that, we have to represent our entire community when we talk about, I'm going to say, environmental justice. This is not one part of our community, it's the entire community we need to pull in when we're talking about what does environmental justice look like for every member. What we've seen in other areas of Colorado, specifically in mobile home parks, the water quality has been so poor, residents have not been able to drink water from their taps. Again, we haven't seen this in Steamboat. I just use this as an example. And this has become an environmental justice issue where the Latino community has spoken out saying we are the ones who are being directly impacted by this in these mobile home parks that we've seen across Colorado. And so that's where the community lens comes in as we're talking about creating a clean, safe environment for our residents. We're encompassing our entire community. Leave it at that.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Yeah, so I appreciate the question coming from an environmental lens and the group that's represented here. But I first would challenge that if we are serious about this, we would go broader than just environmental, because I think this is an extremely important issue. And so if I think about this and trying to apply an environmental lens, knowing that there's some work on trying to get the train systems moving more people into Steamboat during peak times, whether it's ski or whether it's fall colors, etc. I would say an area that I think would make and put Steamboat on the map in a very, very favorable way from inclusion would be going to like Boys Clubs of America and Big Brother, Big Sister, if a train system was applicable, and bringing people who don't get to experience such beauty as you get to experience in Steamboat that all of us who are so privileged get to, is find a mechanism to kind of port people in for that experience for a week, because I think it could be life-changing for many people that are underprivileged or, underserved.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Tim Sullivan. I'm the Resilient Land and Water Program Director at YVSC, and I'm asking a question that was submitted by two different of our community partners.
Tim, sorry, hold on. We have to finish up this last question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're still going. No, it's okay. We're still going to the at large.
I forgot that it was going to everyone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Tim.
John Augusto, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, nice one. So our city council and city government absolutely need to evaluate all work in terms of JEDI. We need to look at how our decisions and policies impact JEDI and Steamboat. Let's take something concrete. Steamboat City Council membership is out of sync with the diversity of our community. Let's be honest. I am able to run for city council because I'm a well-off male who has the time and can afford the time and the money to be on council. Our housing shortages is and will continue to challenge us in JEDI goals. The city is becoming less and less diverse. I've said this many times, a vibrant community is a diverse community, and we are losing our diversity more and more. As city council member, I would explore outreach programs, for example, to recruit diversity within the many city commissions. We have lots of city commissions. We can start there. The planning, Parks and Rec, historic, housing authority, the golf. Let's create, some inclusion in that process. Now, I'm going to go back to it. What I said before, because executing will be on this will be a challenging in terms of getting diversity, because most diversification now is happening outside the city limits. So it's catch-22. It's we don't have housing. How do we move into the more and more diversity that we are losing? So I'm wondering, I don't know if this is possible, can we, reserve a couple of seats of these commissions to be seats that are held of Routt County commissions, Routt County citizens versus just Steamboat citizens. So I doubt, I don't know, we could see whether that can happen. So thank you.
Next up, Robert Galloway.
Yeah, hi. As far as the JEDI principles, I believe in justice for everybody, equal justice and blind justice. It shouldn't matter whether your color, your skin, your sex, your religious feelings, or your political affiliations. Everybody should be treated equally. And as far as principles through the environmental lens, as the other gentleman had spoken, a train running between Oak Creek and Craig would connect these 5 communities together and be able to share in the prosperity of our growth with everybody. So hopefully that'll answer your question there. But I want to maybe circle back to question number 7 that was brought up by Josh Hakes as far as fire protection, just real briefly. We need to educate our community as far as building codes, landscaping, and forest maintenance to hopefully prevent fires. And God forbid, if there is a fire, there should be communication as far as evacuation procedures, what people need to do. God forbid there's a fire, where to go and how to handle it. That's it.
Thank you. And Daryl.
The environmental lens. I personally think these are huge issues that we're all talking about. I would be open to holding town halls. We have a lot of intelligent people in this valley, and we don't use them. We outsource here, we outsource there with things. We got intelligence in this valley, man. A lot of intelligent people. We need to hold town hall forums and have these people come and give their opinions of some of these things, because 7 people are not going to figure all this stuff out, and it's really not the responsibility of 7 people to do this. This is a community, and you need to really, really involve the people that are in and live in the city here in Steamboat Springs. And you also have to look at saturation points that are going on, what's the future going to bring with certain things. I'd love to see the train. We had the train here in early years in the 70s, and that would be huge for the whole valley. I like to see it come from Denver all the way to Grand Junction, but we need to involve the community more in a lot of this stuff, not just, the lens. I mean, not just JEDI. It needs to be circulated with everybody, all their voices, all their opinions, and then you have all this information to sit down and sort out, and then you can figure out the best ways to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. And Steve, why don't you round us out?
Okay, thank you. One of the things, the principles around the JEDI that I like is the notion of recognizing, challenging, and addressing power imbalances. And I'm the board chair of the Health Partnership. And one of the things we do is a simulation where we take people who don't have access to any resources really very readily. And what we do is we have them come, and we have transportation, we have police, we have insurance, Medicare, food scarcity, unemployment checks. And we play a role in each of those things of trying to get access to those, to see what it's like to be powerless when it comes to that kind of stuff. And you'd be amazed when you do this exercise or this scenario or simulation where you want to get your unemployment check, but you can't because you don't have any transportation to get over there. Or you need to get insurance, but you have no idea of where to go to get that insurance. So there's all sorts of powerlessness going on here, and that we need to address with this Jedi principles in our environment and whatnot. So at the Health Partnership, that's what we do. We convey, we connect people who need those types of resources. The other thing I would mention, since I have 40 seconds left, is, and Josh was just out at our annual meeting last week of our HOA in the sanctuary, where I'm the president of the board of the HOA, and we have been doing fire mitigation work for 3 years now. We're trying to get and going to get a FireWise designation. We've gotten grants, and I would say we are a model for how to do mitigation efforts in an HOA, where we've not only done community space mitigation, but we've also started to do individual homeowner mitigation. And it's we have over 60 homeowners out of 140 back here who are doing that. So it's been quite a success, and we'd love to share it with anybody who wants to hear about it.
Hi again, everyone. Sorry for jumping the gun earlier, and sorry, Bonnie, for stepping on your process there. I'm Tim Sullivan, the Resilient Land and Water Program Director here at YVSC, and I have a question that came from a couple of our community partners, which is that one of the great attributes of Steamboat Springs is already access to open space with natural habitats and trails. So what do you see as the city's role in acquiring new open space and managing the health of our existing open space as part of regular land use planning and budgeting moving forward? And we'll do this with the at-large candidates, and we'll start with Steve Muntean, who gets to come right back on.
Okay, thank you. I think the city has to be consistently and constantly looking for more open space. I mean, I don't think we can have too much open space. And so we have to be on the lookout for that at all times. And I think it's a role that we have. I think we need to protect, as we said earlier, the health of our wetlands, which have been decreasing over the course of time. I think one of the things we need to do is understand that there's a lot of grants out there, and we should be able to secure funding, different funding sources to go after for this work, and the grants that we can get out there. I think another thing that we need to do, and I keep coming back to this, is that create partnerships, because that's what this is all about. Partnerships with the ranchers, farmers, the other stakeholders. And if we can get together with them and come up with solutions that work, I think we can do a far better job in getting more open space and protecting the health of our wetlands as well. So I believe the city council has a big role in this. And, I would be certainly committed to continuing that role.
Great. Next, we'll go to Daryl, and then Robert, and then John.
Daryl is muted.
Okay, how's that? Can
Good.
you hear
We
me
can
now?
hear you.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so it'd be great to get a bunch of open space for sure. But, we've been building on our open spaces like crazy, and wetlands, we've been taking them away for years, I don't know the answer, but it would be nice to have a lot of open space, I remember when I was in Fort Collins before I moved up here, I went to city council meetings and talked to them about all the green they had all the way from Fort Collins to Pueblo, and a lot of that's gone, you know. So as a community, once again, we need to work with the citizens in the valley to work on places for open space. Not all open space is good. The projection of the city wanting to buy that property for that was sold for $600,000 and pay $5.24 million on it. You can't even do anything with that. So that's not a good bargain, and I'm glad to see the city gotten rid of that. But we got to be very careful with the projects of open space to make sure that they stay exactly what it says, open space. And working again alongside the other communities to the north, southwest of us, and try to get things more space, you know, and more wetlands. Instead of building on wetlands, try to save the wetlands. You know, it's we're losing them big time. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. And now we'll have Robert.
Yeah, we live in paradise. We have wilderness everywhere, outdoors everywhere. And, you know, gathering, acquiring more, you know, wouldn't be a bad idea, but there's other issues facing this community, infrastructure issues that probably should be tackled and conquered before we, you know, really buy any more land and try to develop it. And at the same time, the land that we have, we need to control the access to it, you know, as far as motorized vehicles, motorcycles, electric bikes, riding on the hillsides and ripping it all apart. So, you know, got plenty of land, just, you know, take care of it, focus on some other issues that are important and getting neglected, and then controlling the access that's already available. That's it.
Thank you. And we'll finish with John.
Yeah. So yeah, the city should be protecting its current open spaces and planning for more open space acquisitions and maintenance. However, as you know, that lens where that people were talking about, you know, there is long-term cost and this and we do not have a city property tax. And so we are strapped in our budget in terms of how we can, you know, where we can spend with limited funding. So this effort needs to be prioritized against existing commitments and infrastructure growth and management, as people have kind of made a comment of there. So, but when possible, we should work with landowners and land trusts organizations to encourage land donations and maintenance endowments to ensure any developed open spaces are safe and enjoyable for our residents. Slate Creek parcel, I don't think is dead yet. My understanding is that is potentially a good example of a partnership with landowners, as married with some grant money that we could use to buy that open space. So basically, being opportunistic where we can, we definitely would like to keep those buffer zones between the different communities and keep that open space. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, great. My name is Patrick Spengler. I'll be doing the next question. I'm the Engineering Services Manager here for Yampa Valley Electric Association. My question comes from Paul Boney, and it's for the Districts 1, 2, and 3. So that'd be Brian, Michelle, and Amy. So in the order, we'll go Amy, Brian, and Michael, is how we had that laid out. So in the effort to reduce emissions, the energy strategies in the Routt County Climate Action Plan promote fuel switching, known as beneficial electrification, and choosing electric in new construction. How will you help the city lead by example in transitioning from natural gas to electric energy sources for space heating and cooling, outdoor energy uses such as snowmelt, and other appliances in new and existing buildings? Start with you, Amy.
Great, thank you so much. I think this ties back to really looking at the strategic planning that the council engages on and really connecting it to the climate action plan. And the first item on the climate action plan is energy. And so really framing the work and the projects around the climate action plan to reduce our carbon footprint, and really looking at where and when and how we can move to more renewable energy sources. I also feel very strongly about using the plan as our guide so we can make decisions now that we know are going to have impact to our community in the future. And so really looking at renewable energy sources now. And as I've said before, not kicking this can down the road. It needs to be addressed now. And so we're not leaving problems for future generations to solve because we did not act in more of a timely manner. And so for the energy piece, I would really look to the plan, pull in experts, and make that a part of our priority area when we're looking at building codes.
Great. And I would, if I could just interject, Jeff, please do follow Amy here. So we'll stick with the District 3. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I did unmute myself, correct? Everybody hear me? All good?
We've got you,
So,
yep.
yeah, so when I got in Steamboat, I actually spent a fair amount of time in Minnesota, and the electric companies here have a very, very aggressive plan to move to renewables. I think they're aiming for 40% of all electricity distributed to everybody to come from 40% renewables. So my first prong approach would be kind of really trying to understand how to work with Yampa Valley Electric as well as any other components and delivery of power systems in the valley as well as throughout Colorado to kind of make sure that they're on a pathway. Second, I would definitely kind of start with the building code programs to make sure that there is an encouragement of tapping into solar. Like I said, I spent a chunk of my time in Minnesota, and we get maybe 40%, 50% of sunshine. It seems like every time I come to Steamboat, it's 90% sunshine. So we'd be fools not to try and tap into solar energy and build it into the building codes in as many ways as possible.
Great. And then we can, yep.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thanks.
Patrick, you go for it.
Okay. No, appreciate it. Yeah, this is clearly on the topic of last night's discussion. We did pass a building code that did not include 100% renewables. And I was pretty vocal in stating my reasons why. It was that I have a hard time mandating electricity when we're not there yet at 100% renewables. But something that caught me on the positive was an email that Gail sent me from Steve Johnson, which was really outlining this green choice for renewables. And I'm still have to say, to be honest with you, I'm a little hesitant with being able to have a plan that we purchase renewable energy credits that are set at a number that can be changed by a company. I don't want a company to all of a sudden benefit from that. But we should identify that in a climate action plan, and if we buy something from the green choice. That said, what was impressive about the plan that we have with the Yampa Valley Housing or the Electric Association was that it's very cheap. And I looked at my own house and looked at what it would cost to be me 100% renewable, and it was using the green choice, and I think it was like $1.16. That seemed low. And so as we're going and investigating what this is all about, for me, I kind of want to know what impact is that dollar actually making, so, and I want to make sure that we're doing this and getting to renewable. But when we offer a renewable for building codes to come in there, we give them options, is that options going to be actually be buying renewable down the road? So in one sense, I was glad it was low, but the other sense, it seemed like it was really low.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I think I'm up. Michelle, please stop me if I'm wrong.
No, now we have Brian Suntek. And
Great,
then you're
my bad.
Yeah. Brian.
So I'm going to answer this how I should have answered the last question. I'm going to answer first as Brian the citizen. Would I love for this to happen, and would I love to make all this happen? Yes, totally. But ultimately, Brian, as a city council person, I think if you try to tackle too much at one time and promise everything, we're literally never going to get anything done. And the key things that I hear everyone talk about is not the fact that their AC is running off of natural gas, but the fact that there's no housing. We need increased workforce, which means transportation, and balancing that with the outdoors. So for how will I help lead by example? It really will be through that lens. The snowmelt thing, I'm going to pick on again. If I have the ability to put in snowmelt, I have the ability to pay more. I'm not having a housing issue. So that we should not be heating the outdoors. Whereas if it's something else, I would want to look at the dollars and cents. Are buying these credits or is a green energy choice? If we are pushing this through code and it's exponentially going to increase the cost, that is just shooting ourselves in the foot. It's going to make housing more expensive. It's going to make it more difficult. And it's not the right choice for our problems right now.
Oh, I know. I saw it.
So I took a shovel.
She also took a shovel. So that's it. But that's basically it. I would love to promise the world. Can I just wrap up real quick? I would love to promise the world. Trust me, like I drive my recycling to recycle every week, but I really just would like to emphasize that like I want to try to view this as a balance, balancing it between where can we make substantial changes in areas that are not like having a negative impact on individuals who really can't absorb that impact. Thank you.
Lorraine,
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Time for question number 7. We're going to change gears just a little bit. My name is Lorraine Martin. I'm the Executive Director of Routt County Riders, and we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about outdoors and recreation and sustainability. The question is, there is a lot of talk around town about the positive and negative effects of tourism and recreation. What are some ways you think we're doing well with destination management for Steamboat as a destination, and what are some areas for improvement? We're going to start with District 1, Brian Swintek, and then we're going to switch on to District 2 with Bacino, District 3, Dixon and Leiter, and then we'll go through our at-large candidates with John Agosta, Robert, Daryl, and Steve. So let's go ahead and start with Brian Swintek, District 1.
I'm glad I'm first on a question I'm ready to answer. So I think this is an excellent question because it hits the nail on the head of one of the things that I've realized recently that I don't have an answer, but is something I would love to pose to city council members on our first meeting is where are we going in Steamboat? The locals do not like tourism, but there's a built-in tourism industry, and we have grown. Eyes around Steamboat, we are on the icon path or icon pass. And I worry that we don't have a guiding compass as a city of where are we headed? What does this look like in a year? Or what does it look like in 10 years? Do we want to continue being a tourism industry? Or do we want to continue with tourism and not completely change? Continue with tourism, but also diversify into different areas. That isn't a decision for me to make. That isn't a decision for the 7 people at that table to make. And I think that we need to sit down on day one to really decide who do we want to be as Steamboat, and then make those decisions from there. If the decision is we want to continue going in on this one industry, we want to focus on tourism, then this is a critical area to focus on because locals are there is a worry that tourism is extractive. Is it destructive? Are people actually not leaving nothing but memories, but it is wearing it down for future generations and the people who live here? It's really critical to address this and think about it, but really at the core of it, I think it's a question of where are we headed, and can we sit together as a 7 to collectively build a bigger, higher vision that then we can view all of our other decisions through that will help us plan the Steamboat for the future that everybody wants.
Great, thanks, Brian. Moving on to District 2, Councilor Bacino.
Yeah, thank you. What are we doing well? Well, we're funding the chamber. I think that is still something that we will continue to do under my guidance that I approve of, because I feel that this town needs to have a managed tourism district. And whether you want to call it destination management or destination marketing, we know that it's just putting the name of Steamboat in front of people, whether they're here and teach them how to keep Steamboat, kindness floats the boat. I love that. But I think that more importantly is that we have to recognize that we are a tourist town. We have been a tourist town since James Crawford came over when he started this place. I mean, the draw was the natural hot springs, and people had dude ranches and things that they tried to get out here. We will always be a tourist place, and with this world-class ski resort, we're going to be a ski resort. I think that what happened I was on council in 2019, and we had COVID hit, and I tell you, 2021 and 2022, we all pulled our hair out with the amount of traffic that we had to go through, the parking. We had so many visitors, and I think that was something that it scared a lot of people because we've been discovered. And I got to say, I think we've been discovered a long time ago. People just chose to come out because they couldn't go travel along the way. We're seeing those numbers come back down to normal tourist, where they're just working from 2019, 2024. I think we're doing well with the way we're managing our tourists with the chamber. We've lost a heck of a lot of events. When I came, there was the antique car races, and the Mustangs are finally coming back. But all those were try to get people here in the off season, and the chamber is already filling that out. And I think we don't need to do as many of those. So we just let the people come and enjoy this town.
Thanks so much, Councilor Buccino. Let's move on to District 3 and start with Amy Dixon.
Oh, great. Okay. So I appreciate the effort around destination management. To me, it's this umbrella ensuring that tourism adds value to not only our visitors, but to our community and our residents and the folks that live here. So I actually really appreciate that we framed it to a destination management perspective. What's worked, I think, is a partnership between public and private entities. The Chamber of Commerce efforts on sustainable tourism and responsible visitation efforts. And there are so many other organizations that have also been working with the Chamber on those efforts. I think about one particular example is, the Route Recreation Roundtable, if I'm remembering correctly, groups that came together. And I believe they actually created the Know Before You Go, or at least had input into that. And this is really a user guide for folks enjoying the outdoors in the backcountry. I think that is an excellent idea, and I love it. And I love that we're pulling in different groups and nonprofits to come up with these guides. Ways to improve, I think we just continue to talk about it and get the education out there and involvement of different groups and nonprofits creating these guides. And gosh, if we could measure it, how many people are utilizing these guides, I think that would be really beneficial as well.
Thanks, Amy. Let's move on to Jeff Leiter.
Yeah, so as I think about this, somebody made the point that we've been discovered a long time ago. So I've been coming to Steamboat for 32 years, like I said, at least 6 times a year. And I would say Steamboat is no longer a ski resort. It is a 365, 24/7 destination. So I don't think we need to attract anybody else. The people know about it and are coming. The things that we're doing well are the free bus ride systems that at least minimize traffic to some extent. I know that from coming from the condo area, a lot of people use those bus systems. But where do we fall short? And these are hard problems to tackle, and everybody on this group here knows that these are hard problems to tackle. First and foremost is parking downtown, or not first and foremost, but one of the 2 top ones is parking downtown, because if you don't take the bus system and you want to drive a car, being able to park at a restaurant is becoming near impossible. Second is affordable housing. So if you look at the service levels in all of these great restaurants that are in Steamboat, they are slipping in many ways because they just can't get people to work there. And, that's a 2-edged sword in regards to what they make, as well as how affordable those houses are. So I think a big focus needs to be on the affordable housing, which again, everybody knows, but how do you solve that? And I don't know enough of the details today, but I think there has to come a way of getting more service personnel to work at all the various tourism elements in Steamboat to make it continue to be an attractive place to go. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Now let's move on to our at-large candidates, starting with John Agosta. John?
So, good question, Lorraine. First of all, I like to call tourists visitors. I feel like it's a more positive word, and because there's a lot of negativity that we put around, a tourist. But in terms of using tourists, we are a tourist town. We have always been a tourist town, as Michael had said, and as a community, we take advantages of all those things of this tourist town, of the ski area, the bike trails, the river activities. Those are built up, and we are here for those. You came here for those, and the bottom line, the visitors, the tourism, keeps us from having a city property tax. That's how we pay our bills. So if someone says they don't want more visitors, then does that mean you want a real estate tax, a city tax on a real estate? You have trade-offs there. So, so residents' voices often get drowned out by the visitor tourism dollars. But bottom line, it pays the bills, and we take advantage and we enjoy those amenities that come with it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Moving on to our next candidate, Robert Gallerath.
Thank you very much. There's no doubt that Steamboat's based on tourism and recreation at this point, and that's great. But we're moving far and away from our energy development in the community, in the valley, and animal raising cattle and sheep and stuff like that. They're kind of moving away from that. And we're bringing in people who are kind of self-sufficient, who don't need to work at all and just work from home. And I don't think that adds to our diversity at all. I think that's a small demographic of people that will move in with their own money and develop their own money. And I don't think that's the greatest. As far as what we're doing well, our advertising and marketing and with the Chamber of Commerce bringing in people is outstanding. But what could be done better is education to those tourists and the public, as far as throwing garbage in the river, having disturbances in the neighborhoods, and all the traffic and parking. Those are bad things that need to be addressed. And with my 1 minute left, I just want to circle back to the question as far as transitioning from like natural gas, coal, and oil directly to electricity through like solar and wind. There's not a lot of mention of geothermal. Geothermal's less invasive, has maybe some fewer uses, but the infrastructure costs more, but it's longer lasting. And there just should be more thought about geothermal. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Moving on to Daryl Levin. Daryl, please unmute. There we go. You're good.
The marketing department, I think, does a great job. We've marketed some summers and winters. We've been really crowded with tourists and people, and it is a tourist town. But we have to educate the tourists, man. I think you all read in the paper where people went up and camped and left this fire going up there. And, these are things that are really important that we need to teach people, that you don't do things like that up here. We got 30 more thousand people coming in this winter on the airlines. So we'll have to see how that pans out too. And it is a ranching town, a ranching community, and I still say it's educating the tourists that come here. For example, during ski season, 10 little points that should be up on the board in front of the gondola, things that explain the etiquette of skiing, for example, which would make things very moving in the direction it needs to go in. And, on a plane, before you land, a little 5-minute thing explaining These are the things you do to enhance your experience in this town. Very important. We don't do that. That really is a big issue with the tourists coming to this town. Like you said, throwing trash in the river, throwing cigarette butts out on the floor, out of your car and stuff. I see it all the time. And education is a huge thing. And being 48th in the world is not a good thing in education. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Daryl. And last but not least, we have Steve Muntean.
Thank you. Every year, City Council funds the chamber. Every year, it's somewhat of a battle to decide how much money they get. Every year, we give direction to the chamber on whether they should do marketing, destination management, stewardship, or something else. So the chamber does what City Council tells them to do, and they do it well. I think one of the things we find since we moved from marketing to more of this destination management, which I will call really being more of good stewards to the community, and that's what they're trying to do, educate and teach people to be good stewards in the community. But when you don't do any marketing, the one thing you have to remember is that if we do have another time period like 2008 and 9 in that area when we had a recession, once you turn it off, it's hard to turn it back on again. So we have to be cognizant of that. I think the other thing is, of course, we're a tourist town. Alterra just spent $220 to $250 million. They didn't spend all that money just for you and I. They spent it on others to come here. And I think one of the analogies to this is that at least when they did this, they added in the wild blue. They added in the mahogany lift. They added terrain. They're putting in the lift in the Meadows parking lot. They're adding snowmaking up in Wally World. So all this is meant to spread things out to make it easier to get around. One of the things we need to do in the town is the same type of thing. We have to balance our local needs with tourism, which means that we have to maintain and in some cases expand the facilities that we've put in, because a lot of these facilities need some maintenance. We need to deal with parking and congestion and have a better bus service, and down the road have a better rail service. And we need to keep developing our trails. So we have to manage the balance between tourism and the local needs. And remember that 2/3 of all sales tax revenue still comes from locals. So we are still the big force here in town.
Thanks so much, Steve.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much to all of our city council candidates. Again, on behalf of all of us here, YVSC, our community partners, our community members, and those that will be watching this forum later as it's posted online, I just want to thank you for your willingness to step forward in the effort and the willingness to serve this community that all of us cherish. This is a very dynamic and important time for service. Many of us were there at the meeting last night until 1:45 a.m. And as we hear through dialogue and learning and commitment to this place, we can work together. So thank you. And I think an important goal for this is to forge new connections. So for those that are stepping forward as council candidates, and as Councilor Bacino knows, we have a whole host of environmental nonprofits, agencies, entities that are advancing all of these environmental issues along with those pertaining to public health and the arts. So see all of us as partners, and together we can actually make this community what the future that we all need. So thank you very much. Thank you, partners, for your time, and we look forward to being in touch with all of you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.